They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't.
It's been a roller coaster putting together this script, knowing I wanted to say something about this series, but not being sure what angle to approach it from. I've already written a couple pages on it when it suddenly occurred to me how the whole series works. Unfortunately, this revelation occurred with the final episode. It meant what I've written before won't work. I had to start this thing from scratch once the final episode was aired. WandaVision turned out to be a rather ingenious social experiment. Throughout the series, we see Wanda in conflict with the reality she wants to be true and the reality that is. And literally, week after week, the fans have made theories around their ideas for what will happen in the series. And week after week, those expectations have been subverted by what the series actually gave us. The series began with two largely stereotypical sitcom episodes in the style of the 60s. The first borrows heavily from the Dick Van Dyke Show, while the second borrows heavily from Bewitched. Other shows of the time period would also have an influence. Let's be completely honest here. These episodes were bad. They were boring. They took ideas from the classic shows and failed to do anything really creative with them. When you look at the sources they are drawing from, especially the Dick Van Dyke Show, it's disappointing. The Dick Van Dyke Show was hilarious.
Mrs. Ross, what would be your second choice?
WandaVision episode 1 and 2 are just boring.
Oh no!
How can I be of assistance?
Well, the chicken is no longer a chicken and the lobsters just flew the coops.
The comedy is bland and completely predictable, and the laugh track is annoyingly obvious. It's all just largely filler while the audience waits for the next hint at what is truly happening.
The all-new Toastmate 2000 by Stark Industries.
But there are a couple things we need to know. First off, we are introduced to Agnes, who has a husband who is never ever seen named Ralph. You might think that Ralph is one of those old sitcom tropes, the character we never see, but he is actually Mephisto.
The only way Ralph would remember our anniversary is if there was a beer named June 2nd.
We are also introduced to Dottie, as played by Emma Caulfield, who previously played Anya on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You don't cast someone known for their genre work in a throwaway role. She is obviously the Enchantress, or maybe she's Mephisto too.
The devil's in the details, Bev.
That's not the only place he is.
These episodes do have a purpose, though. The penultimate episode reveals that Wanda was a huge fan of classic TV. Her father even time traveled to get the DVDs that won't be released until years in the future. Actually, what this shows is that these early episodes are really Wanda's dream reality, what she wanted to happen, her expectation of reality from her childhood. The third episode is very similar to the first two, except we start noticing weird things immediately. The previous two episodes had moments where the real world seemed to butt in, but here things seem like they are possibly not playing out as they should. However, Wanda and Vision do get to have kids here in a very sitcom style. The final section of the episode introduces the name Ultron to the series, firmly planting the actual MCU events in the sitcom reality.
He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?
This is the first clear moment where reality seems to intrude on Wanda's expectations of life. She does not take to it kindly. Wanda also encounters a stork that she cannot control. She cannot control it because it's Mephisto. Also, Ultron is brought up, so clearly he is the mastermind behind all of this, and probably Mephisto too. The next episode is based largely in the reality of the MCU, where we actually get to see some of the blip close up and the chaos that ensued. We are reintroduced to Monica, who we saw before as Geraldine in Wanda's reality, as well as being reintroduced to Jimmy Woo, Darcy Lewis, and Sword. This episode is vitally important in that it gives the audience viewpoint characters. Being in Wanda's world by itself is baffling, but now we have a set of characters in the universe who are also looking at the sitcom world and, like the audience, want to figure out what is going on. Also, the acting director of Sword seems a bit suspicious, so he has to be Mephisto. The next couple episodes are hybrid episodes, bouncing between Wanda's sitcom reality and the actual MCU reality. Now, the errors in the reality are becoming more apparent.
Maybe we better not.
Do you want me to take that again?
Wanda's control is clearly slipping. Vision is becoming suspicious that the reality around him is being messed with.
Please help me. What day is it? How long has it been?
We are also reintroduced to Pietro Maximoff, now played by Evan Peters from the X-Men movies. Since he is played by Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, this is clearly the same character as that one. Therefore, we now have a confirmed multiverse. Also, he's definitely Mephisto because who isn't now? Next, we have the Halloween episode. By now, Vision is incredibly suspicious of this reality and is investigating the town around them. Quicksilver seems to have all the memories of the MCU's Pietro, although why he is a new actor is unclear. Wanda's kids also have powers. It ends with Wanda expanding the hex and catching Darcy in it. Pietro also calls the kids demon spawn, verifying that Mephisto is in the series and it's probably the kids.
Unleash hell, demon spawn!
The next and final sitcom episode shows Vision away from his family and teaming up with Darcy. He is trying to get back to Wanda and failing. Wanda, meanwhile, is alone with the kids and getting exhausted. Agnes brings up the idea that she'll watch the kids and give Wanda a break. Monica also starts developing powers from going in and out of Wanda's reality. In the end, Agnes kidnaps the kids and reveals herself to be Agatha Harkness, a witch that has been pulling the strings of Wanda's reality the entire time.
Who's been messing up everything?
It's been Agatha all along.
Now she says Agatha Harkness, but we all know the real name is Mephisto. And that is the end of the sitcom episodes, and the rest of the series largely plays out in a typical MCU format. We see how much Wanda loved old sitcoms, how she actually used magic to disarm the missile that landed near her and her brother. It wasn't a dud like they assumed. We see that she and Vision made plans and even bought a plot of land together. They had a plan for their life, expectations. In her grief, she creates the reality she wanted more accurately than could have ever happened. The episode does not end with the Mephisto reveal, but we all know it's coming. The final episode has its issues, but it proves to be a very sad end of the story. Wanda battles Agatha, and the two throw magic at each other, and it feels very old hat. Wanda tricks Agatha by using an ability she had just learned about, never had a chance to actually learn. But the fact is, the battle ends up feeling a bit tacked on because such a thing is expected. The real story and struggle is all about Wanda, her dream life with Vision, and the kids in the world of the sitcoms that she loves so much. It's everything she ever wanted, but the other people involved didn't get to make the choice and are being forced into her dream reality. In Wanda's grief, she has inadvertently imprisoned these people into her dream world. She must let go of her dream world. She has to say goodbye to her sitcoms, her kids, and even Vision for a third time in her life. She must let go of her dreams and expectations, accept the life she has, and move on. WandaVision proved to be an incredibly meta piece of art. Wanda had her big dreams and ideas, but none of them came true, just like the audience. Every week a new theory involving Mephisto. This was actually intentionally engineered by the showrunner. The cast dropped hints of future spoilers that were simply red herrings. People like Emma Caulfield and Evan Peters drew fan speculation, but Caulfield was just one of Wanda's accidental victims, and Peters, well...
Agnes doesn't live here. You do. You're Ralph Boner?
Boner.
He was actually the Ralph that Agnes mentioned early on, and other than that, nothing more than another resident of Westview. This show always was a very personal story about Wanda letting her grief get the better of her. She means well, but is incredibly powerful, and let that power run away with her. It's about her discovering the full extent of her powers and why she needs to learn not just what they are capable of, but how she can control them better. That is all the story is about. No multiverse, no Mephisto, just Wanda. The fans didn't get the show they'd speculate on and theorized about, but instead, a rather great show about self-discovery and moving on with your grief. Sure, it has its flaws, but overall, it's actually quite beautiful and brilliant, worth the wait. Of course, now we also have to realize Evan Peters is actually the X-Men Quicksilver, but he came to this reality and got trapped in Westview, and then Wanda wiped his mind, and that's why he's acting weird. And then Agatha says that Wanda is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, and we all assume that's Doctor Strange because there is no Sorcerer Supreme right now. So Agatha was actually just saying she's stronger than somebody that doesn't exist. So, like everybody is. So, yeah. And then Mephisto...